Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online PTS patch notes video with me, Sherman, and yes, this is the news for the week. So 5.3.2 has hit the PTS. It hit yesterday actually, and I did do a video, but for some reason my mic wasn't working, and I checked it during the editing phase when I was running my editor for it, and it was there, but for some reason when I uploaded to YouTube it was gone. So I think it had something to do with the editing. So no editing today, just record, upload, and get it out. That's how I usually do it. But I've been trying my editing software, and people ask me what I use. I use DaVinci Code. Not DaVinci Code, DaVinci Resolve. And I've been using it for a while now. I use it for some videos, not all, and it works pretty good. I like it. I'm still unfamiliar with all of its functionality. But we're not here to discuss that. We are here to discuss the 5.3.2 patch notes, which everything is just fixes mostly. So we're going to be testing out the Jesters Festival in this update with a new pet that you can collect, a cow. So we can finally get a cow pet, and it kind of, I guess, fits the Jesters Festival stuff. I can just imagine a cow in a Jester's outfit. I haven't even checked this. I never test the festival stuff. I do testing of other stuff, so. Additionally, they implemented one fix for block and are still investigating others. This week they'll have the PCEU characters on there and the two templates available, the one for 25 and then the one for max level. And this is the final week of so this week is, or next week will be the final week of PTS. So there's only going to be 4 weeks of PTS this time. So we had patch 3.0, which was the PTS release patch. We had 5.1, 5.2, and then we're going to have 5.3.3, which is going to be the final thing. So the final thing is going to be 3.3. This is a 4-week patch, not a 5 like normal. So this is really interesting that they got everything up and running so quickly. But I can tell you that because they didn't focus so much on skills and stuff, that's probably why. Alright, so we can just scroll pretty much through some of this. Here's the Jester Festival stuff. The new pet is the Sovereign Sow, and it is, you gotta get a fragment from these stupendous Jesters Festival boxes, which drop once, from the first, they drop once from each of the first quests during the day. Clockwork City, the Shade Sentinel had a fix. Fanglair had some fixes and adjustments to things. The nameplate above Thorvikin is now easier to see. Wow. Sunspire had some adjustments to sound effects. Dungeons and stuff for Harrowstone had a lot of fixes, removed some stuff, had some adjustments of other things through the bosses and everything. I'm not going to go through all these. You guys can check the link in the description below and check out the patch notes for yourself. A lot of this is just fixes that needed to happen because of the way that certain things work within the dungeon mechanics-wise. Combat and gameplay fixes, just some adjustments of blocking while jumping into the water. Here's the thing I don't understand. Why would you worry about blocking while jumping into the water? Unless you're in Cyrodiil, and even there, it's not safe to jump in all water because of the super piranha fish that will rip you apart. I don't even remember what they're called anymore because you don't see them. They're just there. So, Nightblade, Shadow, Path of Darkness had a fix. Fungal Growth, Enchanted Growth both had fixes. Werewolf had a fix to the introduction quest, where your ability bars could be empty. Itemization, item sets, Dune Ripper skill, Frozen Watcher, and Grave Guardian and his spark now react to your block state. Aegis Collar, they reduced the cooldown to 11 seconds and from 12. Or reduce the duration, increase the cooldown to 12 seconds from 10, and reduce the damage to 3730. There is some developer notes. Not going to go over them on this one. It's kind of pointless. Nerf's scales increase the amount of armor granted to 5310 up from 4300. This change was missed in the original implication or implemented the Grave Guardian. That was a long time ago, by the way. Elfbane fixed an issue where it wasn't affecting the duration of fire, Wall of Fire more and its morphs. Iceheart, the big one. This is the one that affects 90% of the solo community when it comes to Magicka solo players. Some stamina solo players do use this. I do, personally, because I think it's a great set for how it works. Is anytime you do crit damage, you get a shield. It also does damage outwards, but they reduce the shield strength, which is what they should have done, only. They reduce the damage, which is something they could have done, but not so much. Even though it can be affected by CP, so can the shield strength. But the duration, or the cooldown. So that the thing has a 6-second uptime, the shield does. But now it has a 12-second cooldown. So that means it's up for 6, you get a 6-second window where you don't have the shield, and then another 6 seconds where it will reactivate, because every time you do critical damage, it reactivates. That's all the time. It was a very powerful set, but basically they're saying it was too powerful. And I will read the dev notes for this, because of how they word it, makes it sound really bad. Because it makes a joke on the progression guilds. These people who say, oh, well, you got to have the meta. Well, this says otherwise. This says that the progression guilds were using this for Maelstrom Arena and no death trial runs. So, if people were using this, taking advantage of this set for those purposes, and they're not adjusting it due to the purpose of how powerful it was for solo builds to solo Maelstrom Arena, or even things like dungeons on veteran mode, even some DLC dungeons that could be played solo on veteran mode, then there is some serious issues. If this is what they're concerned about, is no death trial runs. What? So you adjust this because of no death trial runs? But that's not the big one. That's a big one. But the big change comes to one of the new sets. Mother's Cunning got an adjustment. So first, they reduced the duration of the cooldown from 10 to 6 seconds. Now, this is the same thing as Iceheart's. It activates in a very similar fashion. Iceheart's is off crit damage. This is off of fully charged heavy attack. They increased the shield strength to 5,000 from 3,000. And the set now restores Magicka if your shield is broken. Okay, this set drops in the new Ice Reach dungeon as the monster set. So this monster set drops in Dire Frost Keep. Really easy dungeon. You can almost solo this. If you're skilled enough, you can solo it even on veteran mode. And Mother's Cunning, it drops in the new dungeon on veteran mode. It can be soloed. Outcast even proved it. And it is pretty tough to figure out the mechanics, but it is soloable, even on veteran mode. But they put a new set in here that works very similar to Iceheart, and even stated this set's initial design felt lackluster compared to some alternatives. No, only one alternative, because there's only one set that mimics its mechanic or its working structure, and that is Iceheart. And then it says, and we didn't feel like it brought anything special to the table in comparison. While we wanted to this set that wouldn't be too defensively enabling, we also wanted to make sure that builds utilizing cast times, such as heavy attacks or channels, had a slight buffer zone, since they leave themselves vulnerable while they partake in these actions. We've opted to help this set stand out a bit more by rewarding offensive players who get full use out of the shield with a slight Magicka restore, as well as increasing the chance this could happen by reducing the overall cooldown. So, pretty much, we nerfed Iceheart to make this other set better, even though it's not going to be in comparison with Iceheart, because Iceheart actually inflicts damage. And when you're playing something like an Ice Warden with a Frost Staff, and you're decked out for DPS and tanking at the same time, wow, this set has no comparison. It doesn't even reach the same standards as Iceheart, because anyone can use Icehearts. Sorks can use it, DKs can use it, because it's based on critical damage, not on a heavy attack or channeled ability. Not every class has channeled abilities. Templars do, so this set's going to be really good for Templars. This set's going to be amazing for everyone else. But now it's not amazing, it's just good. Like, this is one thing that really irks me when they do this. When they take a set, especially a set that has been in the game and literally has had no changes. Because I've been using this set since right before Morrowind release. I've been using this set on my I used it on a Nightblade, then I switched over to my Warden. That whole time. So ever since they introduced tanking with Ice Staff, I've been using it on a Warden. So since Morrowind, now you got to think, Morrowind's 3 years old. This has been around, and you guys are finally looking at it going, oh, it's too powerful? No. What happened is people found out how powerful it was for clearing trials and how easy it made trial clearing, that it became staple to the meta in-game progression users, but they weren't saying anything because they were using it in a way that they were taking advantage of the set, just like they do with every set in the game, because that's what the meta does. They take advantage of every set, every skill they can that gives them the highest DPS, highest group, they say efficiency, but it's basically to boost the highest DPS output of their group potential. And this was helping them do that because their Magicka people were getting these 8k shields, and in some cases, depending on CP, 10k shields. When they adjusted shields to be based off your resistances, this set became phenomenal. Now they're adjusting it because they realized how powerful a set it is. No. You guys knew how powerful a set it was, but didn't do anything about it until you introduced another set that mimicked it with a different function to activate. And now you guys are like, oh, we got to change it. That's why this is all done this way. This has nothing to do with that. This has to do with how can we make this other set work in comparison with Iceheart so it stands in its limelight. So we're going to give it a 6-second cooldown. How many people are going to switch over? No one's going to switch over to this set. No one. Why? Because it's in a DLC dungeon, which is going to be harder to do than doing Dire Frost Keep. Like I said, most DLC dungeons are basically double the difficulty of your base game dungeons. Your base game dungeons, even all the way up through the release of the Hiss, Champions of the Hiss stuff, whatever, or not the Hiss, Champions of the Hiss, Shadows of the Hiss, the Murkmire dungeons, basically. The White Gold Tower, the Imperial City Prison, and the Shadows of the Hiss dungeons, both those ones, and those are 2 DLC dungeons, or 4 DLC dungeons, are actually within parameters of solo capability more easily and more group friendly than the later DLC dungeons. Nobody likes the later DLC dungeons difficulty on veteran mode because it's like you said, it's double the difficulty of what you get out of the base games. That's why more people play the base game dungeons on normal or on veteran, and play the DLC dungeons on normal for dailies, because it's easier to do it that way than it is to do it veteran and veteran. The only one people, and I know this for a fact because I run a lot of it pug. A lot of the people I've ran into pugging the DLC dungeons will tell me that they don't like doing them on veteran because the reward you get from it, the monster sets, are nowhere near as good as the old ones that come in the classic sets. They will run the Shadows of the Hist one. They'll run one of those to get the Veladreths because that's a good monster set for DPS. But there's other sets that they can get easier, I mean, heck, you can get the Claws one from the Fungal Grotto really easy, and it increases DPS and your stamina, I think it is, or your weapon damage. And then you have another one that you can get, the Storm Fist, which does this really good damage. And then you have the Bear one you can get, which is really easy to get. So you have these 3 other DPS sets, which are a lot easier to get than that one Veladreth. And again, that's why a lot of people use the older sets, the older monster sets, is because they're easier to get than the DLC ones. So I still say Icehearts is going to get overused more than the new set. I think a lot of the raid groups or the hardcore in-game groups, they'll go after this set if they find use in it and they can make it work with the in-game. In-game, you're still using a lot of heavy attacks, so I can see that being a thing. And now that some channels actually work really good, I can see it being a thing. Other than that, there's some other adjustments to like Jalner's Nightmares set. There's adjustments to the Unchained Aggressor set. Vicosa got a change. Now it does 20% damage reduction. Well, targets weapon and spell damage reduction for 5 seconds with a 15-second cooldown. Down, reducing it from 268 for 8 seconds with a 12-second cooldown, which was better, by the way, than the 20%. Because unless you're this is made, Vicosa's made for a build who's going to debuff the crap out of somebody's weapon and spell damage. Like, if you want to remove it by a lot. So you're going to use, like, Maim, Minor and Major Maim. You're going to use this set. You're going to use the enchantments on your weapons that also reduce. And this is going to drop somebody's weapon damage by a lot. But when they do the percentages, it doesn't do it by as much. When you actually have numeric values, it's even more. So that's why they did that, was because Vicosa was being used hardcore in PvP. So some other stuff here, some fixes and stuff, but that's pretty much it. I mean, this update, this patch is basically, hey, we wanted to nerf this set that was used highly for solo play and everything, increase the use of this other set that nobody's going to really get, because they know this. They know people don't run DLC dungeons on veteran mode as much as they run them on normal. And they know that more people run the classic dungeons, the non-DLC dungeons, on veteran mode than they do the DLC dungeons. So, yeah, it makes sense. Let's make a new set desirable for the in-game crowd, but make an old set undesirable for the solo players and the people who like to play the game solo, or like to play the game in a way that they can actually complete the content with their group, because they're taking advantage of sets that help them get through the content. So, but that's it for the patch notes, guys. Not anything else really to talk about besides this. Hey, next week's the final PTS, and we're gonna launch this. I should have guessed this was gonna happen too. I don't think we're gonna see a lot of long testing cycles this year. I think there's going to be a lot more shorter ones, because we're not doing class skill testing. We're not doing they're not revamping the CP system yet. So I don't think we're going to see any long-term testing, except for the chapter. The chapter release, there'll be a 5-week testing. I think the dungeon DLCs are going to be 4-week, and I think even the final DLC of the year is going to be a 4-week. Because if they do 5-week on all of them, then they only do those if there's a lot of skill testings and stuff like that, and we're not getting that this time around. This year is mostly based on performance. So, and remember, when this launches on the 17th, so this will launch on PC on the 17th officially, and when it does, you have to re-download the whole entire game. Do not uninstall anything. It'll patch your old game with the new stuff. If you don't have a lot of space, though, because it will re-download the game completely first before it installs it and wipes out all the old files that it doesn't need. So you might not, you might want to check your disk space first before this happens. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.